On today's podcast, I had Steve Valentine on. Steve is a realtor and investor out of Phoenix, Arizona, and he's got a very interesting story. We talked about how he got started right before the whole market crashed and how he had to go through all of these different things. He ended up leaving his family's business with over $1 million in debt that he had to pay back on his own, along with investing $1 million into the business that didn't pan out. Throughout that time, he ended up getting an REO account during those early days when all the foreclosures were happening with Fanny and Freddie. And he talked about how he sold over 5,000 homes during that period. It is absolutely insane to hear how he did that. Also, what it kind of looked like behind the scenes selling these homes for Fannie and Freddie and how much he was making. He also talked about how his dad represented over 1,000 transactions at the courthouse for these foreclosures. And the worst part about that was that his investors didn't leave him with any of the houses throughout that time. And that heavily influenced Steve and his career to get into the investing space, seeing what his dad went through. And it's created the business he has today, where he owns over 75 single-family rentals. He's helping people all over get rental properties and be creative and solve problems in the Phoenix market. And he talks about his strategy to get about 10 deals a month with no marketing. So if you're in real estate, this is a super great story. Steve is also one of our trainers at Wealthy Agent. And so I've gotten the pleasure to know him. And it's just really inspiring to see, and there's a lot of gold nuggets you can take. So with all that being said, let's jump into it.
Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest,
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
innovate,
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
and inspire.
I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I have got a real estate agent who is not only crushing it on that side of being an agent, but he's also helping teach agents how to invest and do the things that actually make them wealthy. And if this sounds familiar, it's part of the reason why I started our education company called Wealthy Agent, which my man Steve is now one of our trainers and, happily a part of. And I wanted him to come on today to share his story about what it's been like as a realtor who is now focused on investing and helping other realtors, go towards that path. So what's up, Steve?
What up, man?
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Humbled and honored to be here.
Dude, you're going to be in Vegas for a couple hours, and then you're just leaving.
Yes, just leaving. In, out, and then off to New York. So it's
Yeah.
all day on the plane today.
Yeah, dude. It's funny. Steve reached out to me when he saw we transitioned our whole brokerage over to Real. He was like, hey, dude, I'm at Real. I want to, help you however I can. He's like, let's just meet. I'll come to your office. I'll donate $5,000 to any charity you want. And I was like, this guy means business. I don't even know much about him, but I want to meet this guy. And then I text him. I don't think you expected me to text you.
I didn't expect that fast a response.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, tell me about what you got going on, man.
But it was one of those things, and I know that you have it all the time. I don't know how many DMs you get a day, but I get not even half of those, right? But the people are always reaching out wanting to pick your brain and take you to lunch, and you have to find those ways to add value to people's lives. So it's like, well, if I can make a charity donation, just get some time in front of them, that's how I wanted to get. And you're super inspirational in all your content and those types of things. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that, dude, and I'm excited to have you here and a part of Wealthy Agent. But for those who don't know you, man, why don't you give them a quick rundown of what you're doing?
Yeah, so rundown, short version. We went through the crash 2008, was partners with my parents at the time, my wife, and we lost everything like most people, and we went super broke, and we spent 4 years in the REO space, got back into that, and did really well, paid all of our debt off, and then the REO space started to die down, and my dad had bought about 1,000 homes at trustee sale during that time. So he went into the big stuff for investors. He didn't do it for himself.
I was like, dude, your dad bought 1,000 houses?
He did. But here's where the turning point is. In 2015, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he built these massive multi-million-dollar portfolios for people. And what I quickly realized is that a lot of those investors bailed on my dad when he died. They gave myself and my mom 2 middle fingers. They took 500 properties out of the property management company.
Wow.
And they promised my dad that his retirement would come when they sold those properties. And so that's really when the switch flip for me was, okay, my dad didn't own anything when he died, not a single piece of real estate.
Wow.
Like all that stuff that he did, all the creativity. And so I realized like I need to do this differently. So I need to do it for myself so that I can teach others how to do it rather than working for investors. I wanted to work with investors. And there was a big difference in that because my dad worked for them. They were always beating them down. I mean, I remember looking at the P&L and my dad managing properties for one investor for $25 a property per month.
Wow.
Because he was just beating him down every time. He was greedy, right?
Yeah.
We all know those investors that are just greedy. So it just changed my mindset that I'm like, okay, so we need to start, what does this look like? And so we started going down that road, and I remember the first Zillow lead that I walked in the door. I'm like, okay, place smells like smoke. It's grandma's house. The guy flew in from North Carolina, and I'm walking out the door. I didn't even look at the guy, and I'm like, what if I just bought your house for $100,000?
Right.
And he says, give me 100 too. And I swallowed really hard. I'm like, okay, now what? So it's just kind of like the start of I need to do this for myself. And that was 2015, the first one. And then we started partnering with investors that were giving us money, and we would split the profits. And then they all turned into private capital. Mm-hmm. And so that just kind of put us on a very fast track. So today, my wife has renovated 800 homes for us in the last 7 years. She's the GC.
Wow.
And we own a 75-home single-family portfolio in Phoenix. And we've helped hundreds of investors get into the investment game and teach them how to keep their houses rather than sell their houses, and just different ways. We still run the traditional business, but a big part of what I do now is teaching agents how to capitalize on the opportunity of having a real estate license.
100%. I love that. And there's so many things to dive into right there. So, I mean, you guys have built this big portfolio. You're multifaceted as an agent. You can go represent investors. You can partner with investors. You can still do the normal retail work. Yep. I mean, obviously, your wife knows how to renovate properties, which is crazy. And, you know, it's just like you guys are built and primed for this, big thing. So before you guys built that, like, to where it is today, like, let's take a step back. You know, you saw your family lose everything. Your dad goes and represents all these guys who end up kind of screwing them. Where were you in all of this? Like, you know, at the crash, like, were you in real estate when it crashed already?
Yeah. So it'd been 23, it'll be 23 years in July that I've had a license.
Wow.
So I was partners with my parents, and my wife and I had personally guaranteed over $1 million of debt for their company that we weren't quite partners on yet. And, I just had to do the father man thing and go, I'm done. My dad was making some decisions I didn't agree with, and we walked. But we also walked with $1.2 million worth of debt and $1 million worth of cash that we'd invested in the business that all went away.
Wow.
So it was trying time family-wise.
Right.
You know, for many, many years, it was really hard. And so my dad went in his direction. We went in ours, and thank God the relationship that I had early on with my broker at Realty Executives was one that brought me into the REO space. She's like, do you want this opportunity, and do you have $10,000? I'm like, yes and yes. I have no idea where I'm going to get 10 grand, but I'm going to figure it out, right?
Right.
And so we were able to do that, and that was, I mean, I think we did somewhere between 4,500 and 5,000 sales for Fanny and Freddie during that time.
Wow.
That was all I did. It just brown-nosed every asset manager and everybody I could possibly do, because that was my way out.
You know, so one of my buddies, his name's Troy Kearns. Actually, that package that's on my desk right now, he sent me it. We had golf last week, but he was on the show, and he was out here in Vegas and talked about how he was in the REO space, you know, back in 2010, 11, 12, and, you know, just did amazing things in that space. And one of the things he saw was that all these properties were so cheap, right? And people weren't buying them. And eventually he was like, can I buy them? Like, if you're not going to let, you know, like, what's to stop me from buying it? And he figured out a way to start buying his own deals. And he's accumulated hundreds of rentals since. And he was telling me, you know, on the podcast about these houses that he's buying for like 40, 50 grand here in Vegas that are worth, you know, 300,000-400,000 now. And, I mean, he's built up a huge net worth just from that period and that era.
That's, it was a mindset shift, right? I was so focused on trying to figure out how to keep my family together that I didn't have the mindset on how money worked, right? And I think that's one of your big things is like, how do we teach people how money works, right? You know, how the leverage aspect works and how to raise it and how to talk to people about it and how to show people how it works. And I didn't understand it back then, or else, yeah, that time frame would have been totally different. Right. But when people start talking about, well, if the market crashes, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to go get more money because there's going to be more opportunity.
Yeah, 100%, you know. And that's the big takeaway I've had is fortunately for me, you know, I didn't have to personally go through the crash financially and deal with that. You know, I was 18 years old when it happened. But I did see my parents, you know, much like you, my parents lost everything. And, you know, my mom has been a realtor for over 30 years. And so I watched her whole business just get destroyed. My dad had a convenience store. He was an entrepreneur. I watched that shut down, you know, growing up and like seeing him as a very successful business owner to see it just be gone.
Right.
And him like kind of lost figuring out like, what am I going to do to make money? And that had a huge impact on me. And so, you know, going through that and then getting into the game in 2010, I saw this whole thing play out the next 12 years of like, man, those people who did buy in 2010, like that was the best time to be in real estate. Not today when everything is, you know, super hot.
Yep.
So
I mean, I think the lowest price condo I sold for Fannie Mae was like $8,400
in Phoenix.
In Phoenix. And right now that condo is probably worth a minimum of $200,000.
Crazy, dude.
Right. I mean, back then.
What were you thinking when you sold these? Like, because you had been in it already, so you saw these high prices.
I had been in it, but you're so culture shocked of watching the prices go from 2003, you know, to this crazy price and then drop. And it was like a fear base, like, oh, well. But when I look back at it, I'm like, you could have bought a house with 4 walls and a roof, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. All the plumbing was missing out of it for $20,000 to put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
And you could have put a fence around it for 10 years.
Right.
And had a better rate of return.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's just.
Or even this condo. Like,
right.
You could have just maxed out credit cards and owned a condo.
Yeah. But at the time, too, you're like, so how do you mix it, right? I wasn't in the expansion part of, or those things where, well, how do I find people to renovate? And, you know, at the time, most months we had 100 pending Fannie Freddie assets, and there was 3 of us managing all that. And so there was just.
You didn't even have time to think about yourself.
You didn't.
You were just like, how do we move these?
How do I move these? How do I create this income so I can pay off this debt?
Yeah.
Not where are the other alternative pieces, which I wished I would have seen. And we just learned to see it later.
So tell me about those days. I mean, you said you did that for about 4 years. You sold, what was it, 8,000 homes?
Right around 5,000.
5,000 homes. Like, what was the process of this account? Because you said your broker was like, do you have 10 grand? Like, first off, why'd you need the 10 grand?
Well, the 10 grand was because we had to pay for all the expenses. So when we first started, we had to have a little bit of operating because we had to turn the utilities on in our name. We had to, operate from that capacity. And so later on, when we really ramped it up, I remember my kids, 4 and 7, my oldest one says, why does this Fannie and Freddie person owe you guys so much money? Because we talk about the reimbursements. And at one point in time, we had almost $300,000 of our own money out in reimbursable. And if you didn't watch it, which my wife did the accounting at that time, you just got declined. Like if you didn't process it the way it was supposed to and the time it was supposed to, it just got declined.
Wow. They're like, we don't know you. You didn't do what you said.
You didn't process it the way it was supposed to. So that was a lot of moving capital and moving parts, which didn't give us a lot of money to do other things. So we were just trying to keep those accounts going.
That's crazy that basically they're making you run their business.
They're smart, though.
Well, yeah, because there's a million people that want those accounts.
And I knew tons of friends that lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were just making money over here, but nobody was managing the reimbursement portion of it. So my wife would have
totally been me.
My wife knew it was our money, and she's like, I'm getting every penny of this back.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so there was one year, I think we lost $1,000 out of like $1 million that had gone through the reimbursable account.
Wow.
I'm like, well, I'll take that.
Yeah,
all day long.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So, I mean, what were you guys making doing this? Like, what was their average? What was it, 1% or something per deal?
Well, we were getting paid 2.5%, but then the broker took a 20% referral fee. And, you got to remember that a lot of those houses, 08, 09, the average was like $50,000. So we were getting paid like a minimum $1,500 commission.
Right.
So any agent out there that's like, it's hard now, try having to sell, 50 houses to make $25,000.
This is exactly what I bring up all the time. When I started as a realtor, one of the reasons I didn't succeed was because I got so discouraged by like what I was making,
Right.
because I was selling these $70,000, $80,000 homes making 2.5%, 3%. And I'm like, yeah, I just made $2,000, but dude, that was hard.
Can you imagine making $2,000 and $5 of gas a gallon?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Well, it's back to $5, but,
Right.
but prices are a lot higher now. And I just wrote them like, yeah, you have to show more houses, and it sucks making all these offers, but it's actually easier because your buyers are prepped. Like they know, they're like, yo, I got to come in competing. Back then, every buyer was like, there'll be more.
Yep.
I don't need to buy. And
Yep.
you're like trying to convince them to buy to make $2,000.
And trying to work with the banks on FHA and repairs. And it was
was
way
way-
harder back
way
then.
harder.
Way harder. Now everybody's like, I'll just take anything I can as is, no repairs, pay over
Dude,
the appraised
yeah, I'll
value.
wait for
I
the
don't care.
appraisal, like,
Yeah.
because I know I have to do that.
Right.
It's crazy. So yeah, I think realtors who are in the game now, I guess in hindsight, it's better that we went through those harder times, but just know it's a lot easier today than it was. If you're listening to this podcast, then my guess is you're interested in real estate investing. Some of you are just starting out, while others are trying to scale their business to the next level. But the problem is, with so much information out there, most people don't know which program or coach to trust. Well, I'm a bit biased, but I believe my company, Future Flipper, can help you get to the next level. We've coached thousands of students from all over the world on how to build their real estate investing business. It doesn't matter whether you want to flip, wholesale, or buy rentals. Our coaching program has everything you need to become a great investor. There are many things that we include with coaching, but to give you a few examples, you're going to get an accountability coach. These are people that have had success in their own business, and they want to make sure that you achieve success in yours. We also have all of our documents, our systems, and processes that I've used to buy hundreds of homes. You can copy and paste them directly into your own business. And we have events where you get to meet me, top-level guest speakers, and other students who are crushing it. My students do deals with each other, and I personally do deals with them too. In fact, at a recent event, I just honored over 20 people in our program that made over $1 million in the last year. So if you want to grow your real estate business, head over to futureflipper.com and apply for a call with our team. The call is completely free, and they can help point you in the right direction whether you work with us or not. So go to futureflipper.com and book your call today. For the last year, the real estate market has been on absolute fire. Prices are at all-time highs, interest rates are at all-time lows, and there is more money in the economy than ever. But with so much competition, many investors are sitting on cash, struggling to find great deals. If this sounds like you, then you need to invest with Pineda Capital. With my network and social media following, we get access to the best real estate deals all over the country. And if you're an accredited investor, you can invest with me on those deals. In fact, last year we purchased a 334-unit apartment complex in Georgia for almost $20 million. We expect it to be worth well over $30 million when it's all said and done. Our goal with each deal is to build in so much equity from the beginning that we're able to refinance our investors' cash out and own the properties together with little to no money into the deal. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything. Our team will find the deals, handle the renovations, get them leased, and eventually refinanced or sold. All you have to do is provide the capital. So if you want exclusive access to our deals before they hit the public, go to pinedacapital.com to schedule a call. We can put your money to work today to start getting you great returns. So go to pinedacapital.com now to get access to our deals. So anyways, I'm curious, what were you making overall, running this REO account?
We were probably making $250,000 to $300,000 a year.
That's it?
That's it.
Dang.
Some
that's
years
crazy.
maybe a little bit more, because as 2012 started to come out, the prices started to get higher.
Right.
So we started to get we would get excited when we got a $200,000 asset.
Yeah.
Or a $300,000 asset.
You're like, we're
or
going to make bank on this.
every now and again you'd get
$6
$1 million asset, and you're like, oh, the holy grail. And then it would sit there for 9 months. You'd work on it, and then the bank would say you didn't do enough to get it sold, so they'd take it back and give it to somebody else, and then they reduce the price.
Yeah.
So you were just at the mercy of a lot of politics and a lot of BS. So would I do it again? I don't know.
Well, it got you out of where you're at.
It did.
And it gave
It
you all
did.
the experience.
did.
But yeah, as far as work goes, it's way easier to make $200,000 today.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. So, okay, you see all that, you see your dad do the auction thing.
Yep.
I mean, how does your career progress from there?
So it progresses as we get out of our debt. You know, we wiped our debt completely clean in 2012. So we paid off $1 million worth of debt without
Wow.
filing bankruptcy.
That's amazing.
And we settled with some people and really worked through it and kind of changed my mindset around money. And then, you know, as the REO started to fade was right around the time my dad got sick. So we were starting to try to ramp up the traditional real estate. I remember telling my life coach at the time, she's actually the reason I'm at Real, Kim Ryan. I remember telling her right around 2015, I'm like, I don't want to be in this business anymore. I want out. I'm done. And she's like, we need to work this backwards. Like, you might be done with the things that you're doing right now, but you have something more. And so we kind of worked through a process, and that was when I started talking to my my mentor, who I've had for 12 years now. You know, he talked about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, Robert Kiyosaki had a rich dad and a poor dad.
Yep.
This guy's kind of like my rich dad, right? He retired as one of the C-suite executives at APS, the power company in Phoenix, and he has watched me grow up since I was 6, and he was a friend of my parents. And I happened to see him when we were having coffee when I was, I don't know, probably in 2012, and he was going through chemo at the time. And we started having coffee and talking about things. And I remember asking him if I could borrow 25 grand because I was still trying to do the REO stuff. And I didn't have enough cash to kind of move things. So he loaned it to me. And then a couple years later, we started playing racquetball every Tuesday and Thursday. And so for the last 10 years, every Tuesday and Thursday, we play racquetball and we have coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship has just built up over the time, and it's just been amazing. And he's 80 years old, still runs the racquetball court with me every Tuesday and Thursday.
That's crazy.
But he also was the first person that I swallowed really hard, and I said, will you loan me $110,000 at 10%? And he said, sure. Then it turned in, will you partner with these things on me? Sure. So 6 years later, he lets me run about a $4 million private credit line with him for whatever I want to do on houses as far as buying houses. And so that was kind of the mindset where it started like, oh, I can actually raise money and do this without traditional lenders. I can buy houses without going through all the BS. And then we started getting creative. We would buy them with hard money and we'd keep them for a year. We'd let them season, and then we'd renovate them a little bit, and we would refinance them using the equity standpoint. So we'd come out with having no money into the asset with a cash flowing rental. And that was like, wait, we can keep doing this.
Yep.
So it just started the train. And then we started realizing that, you know, one of the first flips that we did, it was kind of a lipstick, 15 grand. Wendy's like, hey, I'll manage the contractors. I'm like, good, because I don't want to.
Right.
So she took on that. And then 2015, I think we flipped about 30, 40 houses. And then it just started to keep going. My younger brother was buying houses for us or finding them. And then I had another partner that was doing it. So the stuff just kept rolling in. And, you know, we lost some money, we made some money, we overdid some stuff. And then that kind of moved us to where we're at today, where we manage about $20 million worth of private capital that has really come from conversations with our clients. And so it's big for me to get the agents to understand that there are other solutions. The myths that you don't have any money and you can't do this, you just have to know how it works.
Right. I love that. So tell me about your wife managing all these projects. You said some went over budget, some you over redid. My wife and I, she actually helped me initially, and then she was like, I can't even work for you. Like, you're too cheap. Like, like, I'm like, dude, we don't need to do that. This is a flip. We're not living here, whatever. And, obviously we're just starting out. She wants to make it super nice.
Right.
And, yeah, we don't work together at all now. And we both love it better that way. But tell me how that is. Like, how did she find the knack for that and be able to manage all these relationships?
So one of the things that I didn't tell you that broke us back in 2008 was when my dad was like, hey, let's start all these companies. So all of a sudden we had a plumbing company, a painting company, a property management company. We'd had all these things going on. And that was really what broke us. My wife wore every hat. So every company we shut down, she went in and shut it down. So she dealt with the customers, she dealt with the employees, and she shut everything down. So she learned, and her family has a background in construction from New York, and it was something that she liked. And so she learned it. And then when it came to this, it was like, okay, this is fun. And then if I can find a contractor to do this. And so it just was an evolution over time that she really liked. And we just took a little too long to really figure out the budgets and how things would work.
Right.
And she started using 3 years ago is when things really turned around. She started using a company called Builder Trend,
Yep.
which is a project management software.
Mm-hmm.
And once she got her and her guys really into it, it really dialed everything in. And she coordinates with all her contractors. We've had the same team of contractors for 8 years now.
Wow.
Same
That's
guys.
super unheard of.
They're family, like 100%. We joke with them, we laugh with them, we take them to dinner, and we help them with their real estate. But they are like 100% family. They don't have to look for work at all.
Yep.
We keep them 100% busy. I think they're scheduled out 4 months right now.
Nice.
So she just learned to kind of evolve, and she made things better, and she changed things, she tweaked things, and I just learned to get out of the way. And then I knew that some of that was just the price of learning.
Well, I've been thinking about buying some rentals in Phoenix, so I already know where I can go.
I have a list of them.
Yeah. So, no, that's great. I've talked to Builder Trend before. Many people have recommended them and said great things for software.
Yeah.
We've never used it. We've kind of just done everything internal.
Yep.
By no means do I think we're like the absolute best at project management. I mean, we've done almost 500 flips to this point, but it's definitely an area where we can improve, and I think everybody can improve in project
We're always
management.
looking to improve.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite part of real estate is project management. That I don't know. And the part about having these contractors with you for so long is so rare in this business. I've had contractors who, they were great. We're buddies, and whatever, something happens, just something bad happens, and you try to work around it, and then it just can't be worked around for whatever reason, and then it's just like I've just found they kind of have a lifespan of a couple of years.
Yeah, so far we've been pretty fortunate. And the funny thing is one of them, our main guy, which is our framer, drywaller, does the tile installs, things like that. He actually was from another contractor that Wendy had hired, and he hired this guy off of Craigslist to do the painting.
Mm-hmm.
And that Craigslist call turned into 7 years of business for him and his family.
Wow.
And we bought houses for him and sold them back to him and did different things. And so it's been pretty awesome.
That is super cool. So today, I mean, I know you said you have 75 rentals.
Mhm.
What does the business look like today as far as flips and retail and all that stuff?
So I've got a small team. I really chose to build my business model. I didn't like the team model, right? How everybody builds the big teams, and it's like nobody really communicates with each other. It's just agents doing business inside another piece.
Right.
So I wanted to build something that was really revolved around my reach. So I've got a lot of past clients, a lot of investors, a lot of things that I do. And so I wanted to teach my agents how to strategize like I do. Because everything is a strategy. Nothing's a sale. Everything's a strategy. So asking the right questions, getting the client to the right place. So we have a full-time CFO, and then I have Erica, who is really my back-end partner. So she's a TC on steroids, right? But she manages all my back-end. She signs all my contracts. She closes everything. When I send her a text, hey, we're buying this at this price, she'll write the contract. She'll deal with the seller. She'll go to the lender, get the money. She'll close on it. And then it gets turned back out. So it's really just my responsibility of where putting the numbers together and knowing where we're going to be. And then I've got 5 agents that work for me. And so they are responsible for their own success. And that's what I always tell them. You're responsible for your own success, but I have some needs that I need some help with that you're going to get paid to do. And I also want to teach you these other things. And my goal is that all of my agents and all of my staff are, at least have a net worth million, by the end of this year. And so we're working in that direction because I want them to do the same things that I'm doing.
Right.
And so it's been really cool because the team really bounces off each other. They help each other out. And it's really more of a team setting rather than a group setting. So, somebody's out, they're going to take care of this. Or when I have a client, like I'm out of town all week, they're bouncing. And then, right now I'm teaching them to be acquisition agents. They're creating relationships with other agents that don't know how to solve the bigger problems, which creates a win-win for everybody.
Right. I love it. So you got the team of 5 agents. They're doing their own business along with helping you acquire more properties.
Correct.
How many flips are you guys doing right now?
So let's see. because Wendy also has regular clients that she's renovating for, which has been awesome for our business. But I think we've got 16 flips right now, and we've got 14 spec homes that are in progress.
We didn't even talk about that. So
Yeah.
you're building.
We're getting ready to build.
Wendy's managing those too.
Wendy is managing those two.
Dude, she's a beast. I need a
So-
Wendy. Like
There's
project,
a lot of people need a Wendy.
yeah, to manage 14 new builds,
Yes.
and then 16 flips and other client stuff. That's
and
crazy.
And the scary thing is that six of the out of the 14 specs are 2 hours. They're in Flagstaff.
Oh, wow.
So we're building in Munns Park because we're building our primary retirement home up there, which she pushed really hard on. So we're building 7,000 square feet up there. And
Dude, this is going to be a monster.
it is a monster. But we're also going to use it for some retreats and some investment things and
Will
different
you
things. we can
Airbnb
do up
it
there.
at all too?
We will. We'll do some bigger retreats on it.
Yeah, that'll be
Um,
sick.
And then we're building 6 other specs up there, 2 hours away from Phoenix, and then 6 specs. And we're just getting out of the plans for multifamily on 1 5-plex that we're doing.
So you're going to build that 5-plex.
Yep.
Yeah. I did a YouTube video with my friends, Luke and Jake, maybe like over a year ago, but they have quite a few Airbnbs in Flagstaff. So I like that little town, man.
Yeah, Flagstaff's fun. So we're down in Munns Park, which is about 20 minutes below Flag.
Uh-huh.
And it's this cool little cabin community. There's no HOA. Everybody's got different character. It
Yeah.
is like a little hometown, a little golf course, all the little, hometown restaurants. And it's just like our go-to place during the summer that we love.
Are you a golfer?
Not very good.
I ask everyone now. I'm just like this golf guy now.
Yeah, you into it?
Dude, I'm into it every week. I just had a lesson right before this, dude. So, yeah, no, that's super dope. So tell me about what you're training agents to do, because one of the reasons I brought you on to Wealthy Agent was because of your creativity and help, like what you already were saying aligned exactly with why I created Wealthy Agent.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, if you go to wealthyagent.io, you can, watch a case study and learn what Wealthy Agent's all about and how you guys can get involved with it. But long story short, everything Steve has been saying about building wealth as an agent is completely true. It's like 99% of them just focus on making more commissions, and that's it. And it's like, no, dude, you would be way better off making less commissions and starting to buy real estate and, getting these way bigger pops by doing deals the right way.
Right. So the journey now and the goal now is to, which I have a weekly mentoring group that I do for real estate agents. And the goal is to get them to see the alternative paths, that the real estate license is the opportunity and opens the door. And what you do with that can go so many different ways if you will think outside the box and start thinking about how you can solve somebody's greater problem rather than just getting them to put a sign in the yard or get them to buy a house. So it's backing into with the client what their true issues are and where they truly want to be, not just now, but in 10 years.
Right.
So, we talk more people out of selling their house and keeping their house and showing them how to keep it and move on. But then we also have these opportunities where people, they don't want to renovate it. They don't want to put it on the market. But if nobody knows you're a buyer, they're never going to sell you the house because
Right.
all they think is this is what it is. So for the last 4 years, spent a lot of time creating the reputation in Phoenix that I am a problem solver. And if you bring me a problem, we will both win and we will both get paid doing it.
Right.
And so bring me the problem and let's see how we work it out.
Right.
And so that's what I'm teaching my agents to do is, we don't call it listing appointments. We have strategy sessions with our sellers and our buyers.
I like that.
Because I want to know where they want to be.
Right.
Right? Because there's other things like talking to sellers, hey, so you're selling your house, it's free and clear. What are you doing with that cash? Well, I really don't have a place to put it. Well, what if I could show you how to make it work and it still be secured by the property? Because most people don't understand seller financing and how it works and what the tax benefits are from a long-term cap gain So it's just going through those things, but you have to start to learn so that you can ask the right questions. If we ask better questions, we get much further in where we want to be.
Right.
And we solve the bigger problem. We don't always know what the bigger problem is.
100%. Yeah, that's the same way we train our guys. Now, granted, we're never going in for a listing. Like us, we're trying to go buy the house, and people know that going into it. And
Sure.
then, we pivot to a listing if need be. How are you approaching your marketing? Being as like, do people perceive you as a realtor first who's coming for a listing, or do they perceive that you're looking to buy the house? Like, how do you frame that?
So it's really framed that a lot of times I'm referred because somebody they want to sell a house, right? So I always go in there with a couple of different things, right? It's the options.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you would get if you put it on the market. Here's what you get here. Here's what it'd be if I bought it.
Right.
What works best? So it's just lining out the options. But then if somebody calls, like the guy I talked to last week, he was a referral from a lender, 92-year-old grandma, and he needs to sell the house. Grandma's a hoarder. She's lived there 38 years. They don't want to deal with it. So I walked it backwards to him, and then I got done, and we settled on a price. And I said, okay, what are you going to do to grow grandma's money for her assisted living facility? He's like, well, I haven't thought about that. I said, well, if you get an 8% return on your money and help grandma's money grow, would that help? He's like, I've never heard anybody walk me from here to here in order to try to help grandma all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really appealing. So it's the financial side and then it's the real estate side combination that really appeals to peace. So marketing wise, everything's been done by reputation and referral.
So are you doing any kind of like outbound marketing? Are you paying for marketing?
Nope.
Everything is just pure referral.
Everything's pure referral.
That's awesome.
We will buy probably 8 to 10 homes a month through other agents bringing us problems.
Wow.
How do we solve this? And some of them aren't, they don't need to be flipped. They're perfectly good. They just want a cash buyer.
Yeah.
So the agents will bring us in the cash buyer rather than the online sources and the other things. We'll make a deal right there in the living room.
As the world starts to go more digital, you need to be aware of which businesses are going to thrive in the future. One of the obvious ones is e-commerce. In fact, last year, e-commerce sales did over $4 trillion globally, and it's continuing to grow. Now, if you're like most people, you probably don't have time to learn a whole new industry and start a new business. But there is another way. You could partner with us at Lunar Ecom. We have over 300 e-commerce stores that we have created and managed for our clients. And the best part is, it's completely passive on their end. The business model is very simple. You cover the cost of creating and running the store. We handle everything else. We pick the products, we handle fulfillment, returns, and customer satisfaction. After all that, we split profits at the end of the month. This means that when you win, we win. If you want to learn more about how it works, you can watch our case study at lunarecom.com. I believe that the e-commerce space is going to continue to explode as the world goes digital. So make sure you're with the right partner who's going to be ahead of those trends. So go schedule a call with my team today at lunarecom.com if you want to learn about how we can start taking your passive income to the moon. Most people want to get rich at all costs. They make sacrifices with their family, their health, and their faith, all in the pursuit of money without even realizing it. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way? What if you could grow your wealth in all areas of life? Well, it's possible, and that's why I created The Wealthy Way. It's a community of people striving to grow together in all areas. And we have multiple tools for you to use that are completely free. You can get access to the Wealthy Way Planner, where you can set goals and hold yourself accountable on a daily basis. We also have our Wealth Builder Academy, which is over 4 hours of content teaching you how to manage your time, create the right goals, and all the biggest secrets I've used to grow my life, not only in my net worth, but in all aspects. Lastly, we have our Discord community where thousands of wealth builders are all over the world encouraging one another and growing together. And once again, all of this is completely free. There are no upsells, there are no hidden catches. For me, this is a passion project and I want to build a community of like-minded people. So if you want to start living the wealthy way today, go to wealthyway.com. There you can get all the free resources like the course, planner, and Discord community. So go to wealthyway.com. So for somebody who wants to do this strategy, because it's something that I used to do a good job at this before I became, who I am today.
Ryan
I was, and you would think that people would just send me stuff because I'm out there, but it's actually the opposite. So before, when I didn't have any kind of following, like I was in the trenches, right? Like I was calling agents, trying to get known, trying to be like, yo, I will buy from you. You can represent me. I don't care. Like I'll buy anything and everything. Doesn't matter. And I built relationships with agents and wholesalers and all that stuff. And like majority of my business was just like yours. It was purely referral based. And people knew my reputation was good. I was going to close. Like I would do what I said I was going to do. Well, what happened was as my influence and everything got bigger and I got more companies, it became less personal with all of these agents, right?
Sure.
And I still have agents from years ago who will still send me deals, and I'll send them to Sean Bob, my COO, and be like, hey, can you look into this and see if we can buy it? And, a lot of them do work. But I will say we are way worse at it today than we were years ago when, in fact, it should be flip-flopped. Like we should have people wanting to do business with us because I'm out there. And so we totally need to do a better job of that. And I've let the team know. And like we're hunting for MLS deals and all that stuff. But the reality is, from what you're saying and what I know is to be true as well, is that you just have to go build relationships with agents and lenders and everyone in between.
Yeah, because if people don't know you can solve the problem in multiple different ways, they might not bring it to you.
Right.
Because the market is, especially with, nothing bad against people that are doing good at the wholesaling, but if you look at most wholesale deals that come to you, they're not put together well. They're not good numbers. They're overinflated numbers, and there's no skin in it to do a flip or anything like that. And everybody's trying to make the quick cash grab.
Right.
I find it easier to work with the agents on it because they understand the numbers and they understand the neighborhood and they understand that it's their seller that they're talking to, that they're actually selling the numbers and helping them solve the problem.
Well, and agents aren't looking for like a big, like they're just used to being like, oh, as long as I get my 3%,
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
Whereas with wholesale, it's like, yeah, whatever we can make, let's maximize profit.
Sure.
Whatever we can sell it for. So like, do you have any advice for somebody who's trying to build these relationships? Like, what would be your first step?
I think the first step, if you're looking, if nobody knows you can buy a house, nobody's going to bring it to you.
Right.
So, we started on social media, Instagram, Facebook, showing the nasty houses that we were buying, even if it was fake it till you make it, right? Go out and show that you're doing it.
You're out there looking for deals.
Right. So you're out there looking for it. You're talking to your direct sphere. You're always willing to look at something. If you just look at the numbers and don't go look at the house, you might miss something.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time looking at houses and taking risks and going, well, this might work. I might lose money on it. I might make on it. I might have to keep it. I might have to lease option it.
Right.
Right. So you just kind of think in different realms there.
Yeah. No, I agree. One of the big things that I tell our students at Future Flipper is, document everything. If you're going to go look at a potential flip, you don't even have to buy it. Just show people that you're out there looking for deals because other people are going to see that and say, oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
Ironically, I mean, anyone who follows me knows I buy houses, but nobody knew I was buying luxury until I said it. And so what happened was I did a video talking about this $1 million house we bought, and I had an agent reach out to me who I'd talked to years previously. We hadn't talked, in a while. And he goes, hey, Ryan, I've got this luxury house that you might be interested. It's a weird situation, and, can you take a look at it? And I said, sure, man, send me the details. I'll take a look at it. And sure enough, it was a new build that the person pretty much, I guess, ran out of money on or just didn't want it anymore, whatever, right? It was like 80% done. And he goes, yeah, it's weird. It's totally like a unique situation, but I saw your YouTube video recently that you're buying luxury houses. And I go, that is cool. Like, that's interesting. So anyways, this guy, I wasn't the first person he shopped it to, but he saw me and he ended up making $200,000 as an assignment fee. He had it under contract for 1.6. He sold it to me for 1.8. The house is going to be worth over $3 million when I'm done.
Nice.
And I'm going to put like $500,000 into it. And the funny part of all this is like, yeah, it was going to be a great flip no matter what, but I'm actually just going to go live in it because it's such a sick house. And it's something that I'm like, dude, this is a brand new house. I'm designing it the exact way that I'd want it. It's in an area I want to live. It's right next to the golf course. Like, I'm just going to live in this thing. And so, yeah, but the moral of that story is, if I didn't post that video, I don't have that deal.
Right.
So, and I don't nearly post enough of me at properties because, quite frankly, I just don't go to properties anymore.
Right.
But for everyone who's in the trenches, you should be posting every freaking time you are in a house.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I teach my agents. Like, they want to get into it, and where do we find the deals? What does it look like? I'm like, you can pull up, fix up, needs repair in MLS. Even if it's under contract.
Yep.
Go film it and talk about it. And then go find somebody else that fixed a house, and don't talk crap about it, but go point out the flaws that you see that maybe you would do different, or ask questions.
Right.
Because if somebody starts to see, like, oh, you're talking about this and you're talking about this, and you're not just standing in front of your for sale sign going, look, my new listing, it's sold in 24 hours.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Right.
And, so it's cool to see my students, a couple of my students, this one young kid, he's amazing. He's been in the business a year, and he's not ready to buy anything, but he knows there's money to be made, and he knows that I'm going to help him get it done. So he's put me in front of a couple of his sellers.
Yep.
The kid's made $100,000 in 4 months.
Wow.
He's 27 years old.
Just finding deals, and you closed them.
Yep. There was a trustee sale deal that he did, and it was 2 houses. Same trustee owned them, and he's like, I don't know how to talk to this guy. Like, he's like tripping over. So I'm like, dude, put him on a Zoom call. Like, let's do this.
Right.
Let's put him on the Zoom call. We got it all worked out, and he made $50,000 for those 2 deals.
Awesome.
And so
Life-changing, man.
yeah. And so I'm just super proud of him and some of these guys, and teaching them that, right now in our market, I don't know what your opinion is on it, right? It's getting a little weird with interest rates happening right now.
Right.
But sometimes just buying something, even if it's 90 cents on the dollar and doesn't need any repairs before it goes to market, and you go to market and all of a sudden the right people come out of the woodworks.
Right.
We had one that we bought. It didn't need anything. We owned it 7 days, put it back on the market, and it sold for $40,000 over what the current estimated value was. Cash, wave appraisals, and you're like, you gotta follow supply and demand and really look at things.
Yeah. I mean, even with rising rates, I'm still not concerned at all because it's just, there's no supply. Like,
I know.
It is what it is. And even with higher rates, people aren't batting an eye at it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, over the years, I've had to adjust my buy box. Back in 2010, people didn't want anything, even though it's the best time to buy.
Right.
When I got started flipping in 2015, I always, there was a rule that Bigger Pockets created. It's called the 70% rule. And it was like ARV, 70% of ARV minus repairs. That's how you figure out something you want to buy. And I was like, okay, that's what people do. And then as the market got more competitive, I'm like, dude, nobody's selling at that. Everybody's
not working anymore.
Yeah, everybody's at least 80%. And so I had to be 80%. And as the market got hotter and hotter, it was like, dude, people are buying at 90%. And, at the end of the day, what I teach my students is everybody's going to be different, right? Like, if you're just getting started, 90%, probably not smart unless there's some extenuating circumstance. Like, it's a brand new home that's just doesn't need anything.
It's never hit the market.
Yeah, just go throw it back on the market. Like,
yep.
I don't have a problem with that. If you're doing a big renovation, there's a lot more risk because you don't know what you can't see. And
correct.
So, you want to buy deeper with those types of situations. But, long story short, my strategy is definitely adjusted. And also, to your point, even though 90% might look like what it is today with the ARV, if you have hedge funds and other people in your back pocket who pay 110%,
right.
Like, that's really buying at a price you need.
Right.
And we've done that.
And some of the stuff too right now with buying those homes at 85, 90 cents on the dollar, especially ones that are tenant occupied, that are going to ride out a little bit longer, and like, oh, well, the market's going to increase while that tenant's in there, and then I can go to market with it. But also, a lot of what we do for our stuff is, how do we connect the dots? So, like, we buy these houses and we give somebody, a 2-month post-possession on it.
Mm-hmm.
While that post-possession's going on, we're funneling through our investors and our buyers going, who's going to be interested in this? Because I won't put the price out until we get to that retail situation where they're out, because I've kicked myself in the butt a few times for underselling it.
Property went up way more.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's cool because we get to solve problems for those clients. Or sometimes I'll buy a house and we're supposed to be flipping it. And I remember a lady last year, her house burned down. Insurance was going to pay double what market rent was. I'm like, cool, go live in that house we were going to flip. It's double the rent.
Yeah.
And it's gone up $100,000 this year because we did that.
It's crazy.
So it's just being creative and not being afraid to like hold and pivot with properties. And that's kind of how we've been doing it now.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my strategy has also changed on that front with holding properties. So before, I would flip everything because, I needed, that was how I made money. I didn't
Right.
have other sources of income.
Right.
And now having multiple companies, I'm like, I don't need to flip every property. And like one of my actual great strategies is those properties that are, say, 90 cents on the dollar, and they're in areas I like, they're newer, whatever, I'll pay the 90% and I'll just keep it.
Yep.
And I'll keep it as a rental, and I can't lose because either I'm keeping it, and you will never lose holding a property for
Nope.
30 years.
Nope.
And it's in a great area, it's newer, like I'm hyped about it. Or, I'm going to keep it for a year or something, and if the market goes up and I'm like, dude, it's time to sell this thing, I can do that too. But either way, I won't lose.
But then you can 1031, and that's kind of our new thing right now is like you said, right? We don't need to create as much income. So now we're looking at things where, we're doing some lease options to where they've got a year to purchase it. They're putting non-refundable on our flips so that I can 1031 exchange the profit and keep kicking the tax down the road.
Right.
And so we've been doing some of that. And then we also, the big thing with understanding owning the assets, and like this year, we're refinancing 50 homes right now. And we're pulling $3 million out tax-free.
Yep.
It's going to cash flow less. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you
But
can do a
what can
lot
I
with
do?
$3 million.
What can I do with $3 million?
Yeah.
But had I not gotten to the mindset of really like collecting the assets and just starting, you just got to start with one. If you own a property, turn it into a rental and move on to the next one. And don't be fearful of doing it.
Well, what's funny too is my primary, I've been moving up. Like I live in it for a couple years, I sell it, and no tax, and it's great. But my current house, which I'm going to be moving into that flip I told you about, I bought it for $600,000 back in 2018, and it just got appraised for 1.2. And I didn't get that great of a deal on it. It was just simply the right area, the right time. The market did what it did. And initially, I was like, well, I'll just sell it and whatever. But now I'm like, well, it actually makes sense to refi this thing because rates are so low, and I'll just pull out a ton of cash. I pulled out like $200,000, and I'll keep it because I want to keep it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And even though I wouldn't really have the capital gains because it was a primary,
Right.
I'm still like, I want to hold this thing because this house one day will be worth $2 million, and it's going to happen. It's math.
Right. And if you're renting it out, even if it's taking a little bit of a loss, and that's where a lot of agents don't understand is that even if you're taking a little loss, the depreciation factor and the things that we get as practicing real estate agents and what it does for our taxes and what it does for our long term.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal in all this, right, is to create, and this is my goal right now, is to create generational wealth that can be passed on.
Right.
It's not to sell this stuff. Yeah, we're making good money, but good money is only going to last so long. If you want to keep doing open houses when you're 60, knock yourself out, you don't want to be there.
Yeah, and for those you don't know, so what Steve is saying is, with the tax benefits, you get what's called depreciation. And essentially, in this house, if it gives me, say, $100,000 of depreciation this year, and I'm in the 40% tax bracket, I mean, that saves me $40,000 in taxes I would have paid the government. And so when you think about that, to his point, even if the property broke even or lost money, on a monthly basis as far as the rent and the property management goes, the fact that I saved $40,000 this year, that's like it made $3,500, in cash flow.
A month.
And that's not to mention the appreciation, the principal pay down, and everything else. So I'm such a big proponent of buying real estate for not only just it's a good long-term investment, but for all these other benefits that people don't even know. Like, to me, honestly, and this is probably bad to say this, but cash flow is the least important aspect to me.
That is one thing that we're very big in agreement on because everybody out there is like cash flow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the general population is putting what a dollar amount per week or per month in a 401k that doesn't create cash flow.
Right.
but they're willing to put it aside, but you won't spend $200 a month in negative cash flow for a $250,000 or $300,000 asset.
Right.
It's also giving you cash flow and taxes. So
Right.
I'm the same way. I don't really care about the cash flow. It's nice, but it's not the
Well, you know
important
what
thing.
changed my mindset was, I started buying rentals in 2017, and I just sold a 10-unit apartment I had. I bought it for $300,000, sold it for 1.2, and that did cash flow. But a bunch of these other houses I bought back then, they cash flowed, and there was a ton that I turned down because they didn't cash flow. Well, the same houses I turned down would cash flow extremely heavily now. I mean,
Yeah.
case in point, I bought my parents a house in 2019, and I recently upgraded them to a new house. And so we're getting ready to rent that house for my parents. And I think the mortgage is I don't know, $1,600, $1,700. And at the time, it would have rented for $1,800. And so I would have lost money when you actually factor in the numbers. But now I'm getting ready to lease it, and I'm going to get $3,000. And I'm like, it's only been 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
And so when you start thinking about that today, where it's okay, if it's breaking even today, and I expect the market to do what it's doing, there's no rental properties at all.
Right.
Man, it's going to cash flow here in the next couple of years, and it'll probably cash flow really nice in 5 years.
Yeah. Yep. That's the name of the game, right? Just helping the agents build wealth and getting them into the mindset of it, because you remember back when you got into real estate, nobody taught us anything about the investment side.
No.
Everything was transactional goals. Everything was GCI goals. Everything was leaderboard goals.
Well, also everybody was fighting, to get back on their feet too.
True.
Nobody,
True.
everyone's invest? Heck no, dude.
Right.
Everyone just got burned.
Yeah. Very true.
But you actually did bring up one thing off camera about a little strategy you've been implementing with buying houses for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
So, last year, one of my good friends who's a veteran, they lost out on houses for 6 months.
Right.
It was just hard on them. And I'm like, nobody wanted to accept a VA loan. And I'm like, I went into Erica's office. I'm like, look, screw it. I'm like, just go buy them a house. We'll use our investor capital. We'll pay cash for it. And, we're securing it in different ways. I won't make it too complicated. So we would use our investor capital. We would buy the house, and then we would sell it back to them. Right. So we get it secured. We'd close on it. In their case, we did a little bit of renovation on it, increased the value on it. But we were able to do all that. And by the time the 90 days rolled around, we did the renovation. They bought it back from us. I think it was $40,000 what we paid for it, included some renovation. It appraised fine with the VA. And, what it did was we charged a premium for it, which was 2 to 3% per client. But what it did was it allowed us to move our buyers forward.
Right.
And get done, because a lot of those buyers now, they're 100, 200,000 plus in equity that if they would have given up, where would they be?
Right.
So it's getting people to understand, yes, you're paying a premium for this. And some of those people, the interest rates they got to lock into and the things
Super
that they
low.
got.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so much that we charge a 3% premium to do it. There was so much benefit to it, but then it just started to ease their mind, because then we're the seller, so we're selling it back to them. We're able to do those things, and we were hedging without a doubt.
You're banking on appreciation happening for that play,
Right.
which we talked about being a risk, but at the end, it allowed your buyers to get homes they otherwise wouldn't have, and you guys made a little fee for doing it,
Right.
and so
And also
it was a
just-
cool thing I've never even thought about.
It was, there's a lot of different companies out there. Some of the lenders are like, we'll turn your loan into a cash buyer, this, that, but they're not nimble and flexible. There's so many rules and guidelines and things that they want to do.
I've seen those companies that do that.
And I'm like, it's great, but I can do this tonight, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to go through this qualification process. I've done all this. And so that's why it was just easier for me to make the program myself. And it'll probably be something we always utilize, because some people are 3 months out from their taxes being done and they have a down payment, or we're working with some entrepreneurs right now.
Right.
Entrepreneurs are really fun with their taxes, right?
Yep. Ideally, you're not making anything, right?
Right. But they're cash heavy.
Right.
So they can give bigger down payments. I can use my lender money and then have them refinance it. Those types of things.
Yeah. No, 100%.
It's just a way to solve problems.
Yep. So for anybody who's trying to connect with you, I know you mentioned you have a program and stuff. Where can people find that?
Steve D. Valentine on Instagram. That's where most of my traffic funnels through. And then there's stevedvalentine.com.
Okay. Yeah, so guys, definitely go connect with him, especially if you're in Phoenix. Obviously, if you haven't figured it out by now, this guy's buying houses and solving problems. And also, too, join Wealthy Agent. Steve is one of our trainers in there. He's giving great education to, all of the students on, how you can do all the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we've got other trainers just like Steve who are, experts in different parts of real estate and, tax and social media. So it's really cool, the community we're building over there.
Yeah, you've been building an insane community in that.
Yeah.
Wealthy Agent, which I'm excited to be part of, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So, guys, make sure you go check that out. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.